Can Tennessee win a national championship? Is Notre Dame overrated? And what is the floor for Florida State? It's Q&A day. It's college football smothered and covered.
You are Locked On College Football, smothered and covered, with your host, Barrett Sallee. Your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, thank you for making this show your first listen. Really appreciate it. We're available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The show brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube or YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started, and we are going to get started on Q&A. Yes, that's right. Tuesday is Q&A day. This show is for you, the fan. And of course, I solicit questions on X and we answer them here on the show. Now, there's a big one going around about the Tennessee Volunteers. Big game against Oklahoma this weekend. Game day will be there, of course. And check this out from Justin Denny. What's Tennessee's ceiling, in my opinion? Look, I think when it comes to Tennessee's ceiling, it's a national championship. That is Tennessee's ceiling. This team is good enough to win a national championship. Now, I'm not just blowing smoke. Vol Twitter, I love you. Got a love-hate relationship with you. I said it would be a while before Josh Heupel built a contender. I was wrong. I was with you on Shiano Sunday. I was right. My old colleague at SiriusXM, Andy Staples, and I were basically the only two who were with you. This team is built for a national championship because of its defense. We'll get to Nico Iamaleava and everything offensively in just a second, but it's defense. Now, defense doesn't always win championships, but just enough does. When your offense is as good as Tennessee's, all you have to do is just be average. Tennessee's better than average. That front seven led by James Pierce is fierce. I'm a poet, and I know it. They've got experience all over the place. I actually talked to Josh Heupel about this at SEC Media Days, and he told me, he said, Barrett, we are one player up front away from being deep enough on the defensive line to be a championship team. One player. Now, have they found that exact player? No. But they're getting close. And the depth and the ability to rotate is there. And that has helped the secondary. Because going into the season, the big question about Tennessee is the secondary good enough? A secondary's best friend is a fierce defensive front, a front seven that can get after the quarterback. They have that. They have that. So when you look at complementary football, all you got to do is just be average. And I think they're better than average. Yes, the competition has not necessarily, it's not necessarily strong. But you can only play they ain't played nobody for so long, because we can get to the end of the season, and this happens every single year. Well, they ain't played nobody. Tennessee played NC State and beat the ever-living crap out of them. I'm not the biggest Grayson McCall guy. If you've watched this show, you know that. But they're still a fringe top 25 team that is extremely well coached and has a phenomenal receiver in Concepcion. Tennessee's defense shut that offense down from the get-go and never looked back. That matters. And what's really interesting in that game, which is, I think it's fair to say, the only one that really truly matters so far, Nico was just okay at quarterback. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. That was a Dylan Sampson game. So that combination is absolutely championship caliber. I know there's this lightning rod around Tennessee. I get it. The team was in the national championship hunt 2 years ago. Would have made the playoff had the South Carolina game not happened. They've got a fantastic coach in Josh Heupel who knows exactly what he's doing and gets the players that he knows can execute it. So playoff team, absolutely. At this point, I would be shocked if Tennessee doesn't make the playoff. A national championship caliber team, absolutely. Dynamic offense, absolutely fierce defense. And a coach in Josh Heupel who knows exactly what he wants and gets the players to execute that. Yes, this Tennessee team can win a national championship and certainly make a playoff. Next up on Q&A, when do you think Billy Napier will get fired? Zach Kokek is the guy who sent this, and I don't think it's shocked that his username is Fire Billy. I've been pretty consistent about how I think this will operate. Remember, Jimbo Fisher went out, had a big win at Mississippi State, then got fired the next day. That could be Billy. That could be Billy. I think after what we saw against Miami and then certainly last week against Texas A&M, when if you lose to a backup quarterback like that, I don't care who the backup quarterback is, that is extremely alarming because you've lost your fan base. You've lost the big money donors. It's not about reality. Maybe Texas A&M's offense found its stride. I don't know. But the perception is you got smoked by a backup quarterback, and the two-man quarterback race on your own team was a disaster. That's it. So I do believe that conversations have already happened. I do believe that the hay is in the barn. I do believe that right now the conversation is, okay, how do we present this? And when do we present this? Because there have to be ducks in a row. And what do I mean by that? This is a new era. You have to have your coach in place for the early signing period, to retain coaches, to recruit high schools, to get the transfer portal taken care of. So all of those things have been sort of in place for the last few years. It's been a difficult time. That's why you've seen coaches get fired earlier on in the season. But then now the 12-team playoff has thrown another wrinkle into it. What if 3 of the guys you want to court are in the playoff? What if the hot shot group of 5 coach that you really, really want took that spot? It makes it almost impossible to have these behind the scenes conversations because a lot of these teams are still fighting for a playoff spot. So you have to have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D already set in stone. And there's no blueprint for that. So my gut is that if he loses this weekend, he's out. If that doesn't happen, or if they win and they fire him anyway, I would guess before the cocktail party. Just because you want it to be a bye week. And you do kind of want to see if they turn it around, or at least some people do. The problem with that is you don't want to give him a chance to coach himself back into the good graces of important people if you're just going to fire him anyway. My gut is it's going to be this weekend. Win or lose. If I'm wrong, because of the administrative turnover at Florida, I would say the week before the cocktail party. It ain't going to be the end of the season. Like, it's going to be within the next month and a half. I think it'll be Sunday. And if it is Sunday, we will have it covered for you. There will be an emergency podcast. And I would imagine we will also do an emergency show on SiriusXM because that's what we do. All grind, all gas, no breaks here during college football season. We'll take a break. We'll talk about Notre Dame coming up on the other side. Is Notre Dame overrated? Can they still make a playoff run? We'll talk about it next. It's college football smothered and covered. And of course, we are powered by the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, let me tell you about Roy, new sponsor here on the show. Look, this is collective. Like there are collectives now, right? You can pay players. Yes, you individually, you, the listener, the viewer, you can pay players with Roy. Stands for Return on You, and it's a new platform that lets you, the fans, get involved in NIL like never before by making contributions directly to your favorite athletes. I've seen this interface. It is fantastic. By supporting players directly, you can help shape rosters, retain talent, and keep your favorite athletes out of the transfer portal. As you all know, NIL has changed the game, and Roy changes the NIL game for you, the fans. It allows fans to directly back their favorite college athletes. With Roy, fans can play a key role in shaping the future of their favorite teams while athletes maximize their name, image, and likeness. When fans contribute to a successful campaign, they receive access to exclusive content from the athletes, such as their announcement decision, behind-the-scenes footage, and other personal reflections, all of which are available only to fans who support the athlete. Now, this is super cool because all you got to do is download the app. You can put money into the account of whichever athlete you want. And as soon as that athlete claims that account, he can get paid. And if he leaves, you get your refund. It's awesome. Download Roy for your iOS and Android and enter referral code Locked On. That's referral code Locked On, Roy, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes for $5,000. $5,000 cash just by using the code Locked On when you download Roy. Visit joinroy.com for additional details. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Get to the Roy app from iOS or Android and start making an impact on your favorite team. Use referral code Locked On for an opportunity to win $5,000 cash. Visit joinroy.com for more details. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Get off the sidelines and get in to the NIL game with Roy. All right, let's talk about Notre Dame. Cheer, cheer for old Notre Dame. Look, said this a lot about Notre Dame. It's the most polarizing team in the country. You either love them or you hate them, and there's really no in between. The only team now that's even comparable is Colorado, but that's more flash in the pan. Notre Dame is like this every single season. So this question comes from Dave Crockett. Why does Notre Dame schedule nobodies and get beat by a nobody, still get a good bowl and blown out and still start the next season ranked in the top 10? Also, Florida sucks. Got to throw that in there, right? Also, Florida sucks. Look, I'll be honest with you. I get this question a lot. Notre Dame's not overrated. They're not underrated. They're properly rated every preseason. If they're picked 10th, 11th, 12th, they're usually finish around 10th, 11th, 12th. If they're ranked 6, 7, 8, they're usually ranked around 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 after the season. They are the most properly rated team outside of the national championship contenders every single year. In fact, the only year, you can look back, the only year that's the outlier is 2016 when they went 4-8. That's the only one. So no, Notre Dame is not overrated. Essentially, they are properly rated. Scheduling nobodies, I would push back on. They scheduled Texas A&M on the road. They have a scheduling deal with the the ACC, so they'll get Florida State, Clemson, Miami. Like, they're not nobodies. It's not Notre Dame's fault that those teams suck sometimes. So they have that. They play USC. It's not Notre Dame's fault that USC has been down in the dumps. So they're not scheduling nobodies. They're actually scheduling really good teams, historically good teams. And then the ACC has its own scheduling model. So they give Notre Dame opponents. And yeah, some of them suck. That's not Notre Dame's fault. Some of them are down in the dumps, like sometimes Clemson is, sometimes Florida State was in the Taggart era and early on in the Norvell era. Like, what do you want them to do? The only thing that I think you can criticize Notre Dame for in terms of scheduling is that they don't have a conference championship game, thus making it easier to get in the college football playoff, except they can't get a top 4 seed. Okay. I mean, I'd stay independent if I was Notre Dame, which they will. And I'd continue doing exactly what you're doing. It's a perfect system because it does give you the schedule that looks good to the committee because it is a tough schedule. Again, they schedule home and homes, good ones. They have a deal with the ACC for 5 or 6 games each year. Some of them are against nobodies. Some of them aren't. That's not Notre Dame's fault if they're nobodies or if they suck any particular season. They have USC. It's not Notre Dame's fault if USC is down in the dumps. What do you want them to do? Yeah, they play the service academies. Okay. Okay. Like, there are a lot of average to below average games that happen across all these teams. Now, I said this on SiriusXM, and I just was being devil's advocate because I don't necessarily believe it just because we haven't, there's nothing for me to really believe that Notre Dame actually figured things out last week. But what if Northern Illinois is actually pretty good? Have we thought about this? What if Northern Illinois is like they were in 2012 when they went to the Orange Bowl? I don't think that's the case. But what if it's also the only loss for Notre Dame? What if the other loss is to a really good team and they finish 10-2? Does that get them into the playoff? It's impossible to say because we don't know the landscape. But should you discount it? No. You absolutely shouldn't discount it. So those are my thoughts on Notre Dame. Again, most polarizing team in the country consistently. Maybe Colorado's more polarizing right this very second. That will change when Florida State or when Colorado fizzles out, which is happening. We're currently in the middle of that. But no, Notre Dame's not overrated. They're properly rated. Go back and look at their rankings. With the exception of 2016, it's about exactly where they should be. Next up in fan Q&A, Illinois is 3-0, but a murderer's row of games over the next month. Are they legitimate, and can they take a few of those games, or is it beat Purdue and hope for the best of the rest? Look, I think it's I think it's the latter. I do think I like Luke Altmaier. The offense still has just been average to slightly above average. Now, my old colleague at CBS, Tom Fernelli, is going to hate me for this, but yeah, I think it's the latter. I love Brett. I think they're going to win the battle in the trenches quite often, but they just don't have the upside considering how to play Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan. Like, I know Michigan's whatever, but still, talent-wise, there's no contest. So I think the murderer's row is going to get them. Now, are they going to lose all of those games? No, they can spring an upset, but they're not toss-ups. They're likely losses. With that said, if you win your toss-ups, you do spring an upset. Could Illinois finish, 8-4? Yeah, they're good enough for that. They're well coached. Love the attitude on the line of scrimmage. Think Luke Altmaier can be okay. So if Illinois fans are expecting like Big Ten championship or playoff, no. Let's pump the brakes on that in a big way. I don't think anybody is, though. I think for Illinois fans, and I know a lot of them, especially my former colleague Tom Fernelli, who I love with every fiber of my being, I think it's basically keep doing what you're doing and try to spring an upset, but don't let those toss-up games slip away. And that's fine. I think that's the case for Illinois in most seasons. And I think the difference now with Brett is that the definition of toss-up game has changed. Like, those are better teams. You're a better program. You're not springing an upset on, the Minnesotas of the world. Interested this weekend against Nebraska, though. It's a fascinating game. I think it's a likely loss, but you can convince me otherwise really easily. We'll take a break. On the other side, we'll talk about Florida State. What is the upside to Florida State? Is there an upside to Florida State? I don't know. We'll talk about it next. It's college football smothered and covered. And of course, we are brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. We are brought to you by FanDuel. You know about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. I love FanDuel. Do a great job. We have something a little different for you, the college football smothered and covered listener. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV-based plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is your Google account. Everyone's got one of those. And a current form of payment. Everyone's got one of those as well. You can cancel anytime you want. Just visit FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. And download America's #1 sportsbook. Okay, let's do the last question on Tuesday Q&A. Love Tuesday Q&A because this is for you, the fan. And this one's interesting. This one's very, very interesting. Does FSU win 4 games this season? 4 games. That's where we are as a program. I don't say we. I'm not a Florida State fan. But, oh, buddy. It's gone from college football playoff to, dang, can we even get to a bowl game? I don't think so. I think Florida State I think Mike Norvell has misjudged how to sustain success. And I know this year sucks, but that's okay. You learn your best lessons from your failures. This is a failure. I think Mike Norvell thought, even though all of these players left, that the current players on the roster were enough to give DJ Uiagalelei the ability to still keep them competitive and maybe become the guy that everybody thought he was before the season, or before he signed with Clemson, I should say. Norvell was wrong. Those players weren't developed. So I think he has to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, should we be the transfer portal destination like last year when they were successful? Or do they pay more attention to high school? They need to pay more attention to high school. I think maybe they lost sight of that a little bit. And so, yeah, go back to the drawing board. Get some transfers this year. Not as many as before, but get some transfers this year in order to help you win on a consistent basis. And then really hit the high school recruiting trail hard. There was some arrogance involved in Florida State this year. I think the offensive staff looked at, Keon Coleman's gone, Johnny Wilson's gone, Trey Benson's gone, whatever. We're going to get enough, and DJ is going to turn into something different. What they found out is Toafili is good, but not great. Roydell Williams is good, but not great. Wide receivers they got good, but not great. And so you can't fix DJ. But I think the bigger issue is obviously in the trenches, there was no development. I think a lot of that was disguised by Jordan Travis. And now on the offensive side of the ball, they can't block anybody. And then defensively, they couldn't find interior defensive linemen to fill those gaps, to keep this team competitive. Plus, I mean, look, 0-3 starts can lead to disasters. You know, you run the risk of losing an entire team and have 85 players going in 85 different directions. That's what happened when Willie Taggart was there. The culture of Florida State is fine. I saw idiots on Twitter saying, well, it tells you a lot about a program that you had people rage quit after the regular season, and then the season falls apart the following season. That's incredibly short-sighted, because before the 2023 season, Jared Verse, Trey Benson, Jordan Travis, all these guys who could have gone to the NFL decided to come back because they love the program. It just so happened that Mike Norvell approached this season differently. It happens. It's hard to sustain success in this game. Only the great coaches do that. Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, Kirby Smart. It's really hard to do that. Mike Norvell hadn't learned that lesson, and that's okay. That'll do it for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered, powered by Locked On. Really appreciate you checking out this show. For your second listen, go check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. Does a great job over there covering the sport all across the nation. So go ahead and do that. If you need a link to that, it is right below. Whether you're watching on video or audio, it's still there. No matter where you are, it is there. Until next time, have a great Tuesday, everybody. We will talk to you on Wednesday. My colleague at SiriusXM, Tom Luganville, should be joining us then. Till then, have a good one.